I'm going to tell you the story of how I got over my fear of swimming. And I hope that this story helps you overcome the same fear, or if you have a different fear, overcome that one. So I went to my first ever swim class when I was in third grade, so I think I was probably 7 or 8 years old. And I attended that class with my sister, who's 4 years older than me, so she was probably in 7th grade at the time. So at this point, I did not know how to swim at all. The first day of class, we were assigned to what pools we would be swimming in for the rest of the class period. My sister was put in the 3-foot pool with all the little kids and babies. And I was put in the 10-foot pool. I was confused as fuck how my sister, who's 4 years older than me, was put in a pool that is 7 feet shallower than mine. I was fucking terrified because I never been in a pool deeper than that one. The deepest pool I'd been in by then was probably like one up to my waist. So that's like a 2 feet pool because at this point I'm like 4 feet tall, right? I'm pretty sure I asked too if I could be moved to the 3-foot pool like my sister too, but the instructors were like, oh no, it's okay. The 10-foot pools, it's not that bad. You'll be fine. So they basically forced me to try it. Most of the boys in my class were around my age, but they looked like they've been swimming for months. Like they looked like they could fucking swim. And I could barely muster up the courage to get into the water. So once I eventually got into the water, the instructor gave us all our first swimming exercise for the day. And it was to swim from the pool wall to the first lane divider. You know that those ropes that separate the different lanes in the pool? They're like made of plastic and they like float in the water. You know those things, right? I think they're called lane lines or lane ropes. Since we were at the end lane of the pool, the instructor told us to just swim from the pool wall to that first lane divider, which is literally like 2 strokes. It's 8 feet wide. It's literally just the size of 2 strokes. Easy as fuck, right? But I was still scared of doing that because it felt like swimming a mile for me. All of the kids did the exercise almost immediately, but I was still at the pool wall. I was just scared as fuck to let go of the wall. And the instructor came up and told me, don't worry, I'll catch you if you mess up. Don't worry, I'm right here. But I was still like, I'm terrified of, I'm just thinking here that if I mess up, the instructor might also mess up and I'm gonna fall into the water and drown and die. Basically, I was on some pussy shit. I did not trust the water. I eventually tried doing it, but I barely got 1 stroke in before I fucked up and fell into the water because I was so fucking terrified. It overtook me and I fell into the water and I got about a foot below the surface before the instructor picked me back up and brought me back to the surface. But I felt like I was actually going to drown in that moment. And I still remember how that felt even today. So the instructors realized that I obviously wasn't the best fit for the 10-foot pool. So they moved me to the 8-foot pool, but I'm 4 feet tall. It doesn't make a fucking difference. Just put me in the 3-foot pool, bro. But this time they gave me equipment to help me swim. They gave me a little floaty barbell thing. The long barbell that you can hold onto the handle and just kick while holding onto it, and you move slower than a fucking snail, but you still move, right? I was still scared of swimming like that in the beginning, but eventually I got used to it, and I just loved swimming with that fucking floaty barbell thing. I refused to let go of it and try using my arms. I made sure no one took that shit from me. It was the only thing keeping me alive. On the other hand, my sister's class has already got into diving in deep water, and I don't even understand how they progressed that fast while I was still here with the fucking floaty barbell, and I barely learned how to actually swim yet. But still, I finished the class, apparently. I got the little certificate of completion, but I barely learned shit because the entire time I just stuck with that floaty barbell, and I refused to let anyone take it from me, and I prevented any person from helping me advance from that. Even my dad tried to personally coach me after that class so I could actually learn how to swim and use my arms. But my fear of the water prevented me from trying my best. I didn't trust the water. After that, I didn't swim for quite a while. My family and I would obviously go to the beach, right? And we wouldn't swim in the ocean, obviously, because I can barely swim in a fucking pool. But we would just let the water come up to our feet and up to our knees and just enjoy that and throw rocks and play games, just for fun. but we never went and swam. But the ocean felt a little bit less scary because I'm not going deep into the ocean like a pool did. Pools scared the shit out of me for, I don't even understand why, but it was just because of my fear of drowning in a pool. Whenever I'd walk by a pool room, like, the room with all the pools, whenever I'd walk by, I'd smell the chlorine that they use to, clean the pools and stuff. And that would make me nervous. Literally, just the smell of chlorine would make me feel scared. But interestingly, in the summer before 6th grade, my family and I went on a cruise trip for our summer vacation. And you know how there's drive-in movie nights where everyone brings their cars and watches a movie on the big screen while they're sitting in their cars, right? You know that, right? Apparently there's this thing called a dive-in movie night, which is obviously completely different. There's just a big-ass pool right in front of the big screen, and then behind the pool there's a bunch of seats for people to sit at who don't want to swim. So we had one of these dive-in movie nights at the cruise, and my parents thought it would be fun if my sister and I went into the pool and had fun there while watching the movie. And for the first time, I actually agreed with them. I thought it would be fun to be in the pool especially because the part I was in would be 3 to 4 feet tall, which is just chill. I can just stand around, or I can splash in the water and play games and, stuff like that, and not actually swim. And I still remember the movie that was playing on the big screen too. It was Peter Rabbit. Before this video, I had to search up Feel It Still because I remember the song that was playing in the movie, but I didn't remember the movie name. But now I can tell you that was the movie that was playing while we were fucking around in the pool. Although I was expecting to just splash around, this time in the pool, I actually went pretty fucking crazy. My fear of the water was kind of gone somewhat. I didn't feel scared of just being in the pool because we were splashing around. Me and my sister were playing with all the other kids in the pool. We were just having a lot of fun. It was a great time. And near the end of our time in the pool, I think it was at the end of the movie, or actually, I think it was after the movie had already finished, I managed to muster up the courage to swim about 2 to 3 strokes, which is obviously not that much, but for me it was a huge fucking deal. I don't know if it was something about the environments in the movie night and the cruise and everything, or the people around me that gave me the confidence to try it out, but I did achieve it, and I was very proud of myself after that. My parents were also very proud. I was telling them, oh, I can swim a little bit now, just for 2 seconds, but it was still a huge achievement for me. But for some reason, I was scared again in 8th grade. So the university that my sister was going to be attending the next year had a mandatory swim test, which required that students dive, feet first into the pool first, and then swim 75 yards, which is 3 pool lengths. You just go back and forth 3 times in the pool. So my dad, my sister, and I all went to the pool to practice. My dad and sister were mainly focused on, training for that test in the 5-foot pool. Well, I was just chilling in the 4-foot pool and trying to at least get a little bit of swimming in. I wanted to muster up the fucking courage that I had at that dive-in movie, because as scared as I was of, swimming, I still really wanted to achieve it. I don't want to fucking give up and quit. My goal was to literally just swim for at least 5 seconds. I just wanted to swim for 5 seconds. So I kept trying. I failed the first time. I tried again. I failed over and over fucking again. I failed so many fucking times, and I was so annoyed at that point that I would just act like I was practicing swimming when I really was just doing jack shit while my dad and sister were actually swimming. And that fear of swimming continued on into high school too. I didn't even go to my classmates' pool parties. They would have pool parties sometimes during the year, and I would always just say, I can't go. And when they'd ask me why, I wouldn't just come up with some random excuse like I should have done. I would just say, oh, I can't swim. I don't know why the fuck I thought that was a good idea. Maybe I just thought honesty is the best policy. But nah, it would just get me made fun of by everyone. I did go to one pool party though. I wouldn't really call it a pool party, because it was more of just a hangout with me and the boys, and we were just in one of our friends' pools. And my friends know I don't really like going to the deep end, and they don't really like that either, because it's more fun to play pool basketball and just fuck around and shit in the more shallower end, where you can stand up and run around and just, do whatever the fuck you want, right? So we were in the shallower end for most of the hangout. But during that time, at some point, we were playing around in the pool, and one of my friends, thought it would be funny if you pushed me a little bit, just a little bit, a tiny push onto the slope that led to the deep end. Because, you know how in some pools, the dividers between different depths is just a big step, like a really abrupt step. And in most pools, it's not like that. It's like a little slope that just gradually goes down to the deep end. So yeah, this pool is one of those pools that have a slope down to the deep end. So it's better, right? But when my friend pushed me, I fell a little bit too back and I fell into the water. And I was still trying to like touch the slope on the bottom, but I think I was a bit too low that even my head was below the water and I was terrified. I couldn't bring myself back up. I was trying my best to push myself up to get air, but I just couldn't. I thought I was actually going to drown. My friend who pushed me tried to bring me back up to the surface, and I was just grabbing onto him because I was just so fucking scared. I was like, bro, please bring me up. And it wasn't working until one of our other friends passed him a floaty and he got me back up to the surface. It felt like a near-death experience, but we were actually just like a few inches below the water, nothing too crazy. But in the moment, I really did feel like I might fucking die here. I wasn't mad at my friend about this because I knew he didn't mean for that to happen. I was just more frustrated with myself that I couldn't push myself back up to the surface, even though it was just a few inches below the surface. After that experience, I was even more terrified of pools now, so I didn't really go to any for quite a while. Until my family moved houses. We moved from our old house to a new house that was just 5 minutes away, but it was a bigger house. And guess what it had in the backyard? A fucking pool. So I had no excuse to not learn how to swim now. So my dad, my sister, and I all went to the 3 feet, shallow section of the pool. And I relearned everything about swimming in that 3 feet, like I should have done in that first class. So we started with the kicks. So we hold onto the pool wall and just start kicking, right? And we're just floating on the water because, we're holding onto the pool wall. Nothing's gonna happen. We're not even fucking moving. I got the hang of that pretty quick because it's like the easiest fucking thing ever. But then I realized that before I learn the mechanics of swimming, I need to do something more important first. And that is trust the fucking water. For the past 17 years, I was fucking all this shit up just because I didn't trust the water. I didn't think it could hold me. I didn't think I would be able to float in it. So the first thing I had to do was learn how to float in it. You know the starfish position where you just lay flat on the water with your arms and legs out and you just look up at the sky and you just float in the water. That's the first thing I had to do. I had to trust that the water would hold me. I had to envision myself as like fucking Moana, who the water listens to, and I can trust my life with it. Luckily, I was very interested in self-improvement and becoming a fucking Chad during this time. So it was very helpful, and I had that mindset that I have to fucking do this. It's my duty to be able to float in this water and trust the water and let it hold me. I had to get over this fear and I would not give up. I realized that even though I let the water carry me somewhat, there was still a specific part of my body that I didn't really trust the water to carry. And that is my head. I would always kind of tilt my head too high while I was floating because I was scared of my legs falling to the pool floor and I would fail at floating, so I would have to, stand up again, right? And that's why I always kind of tip my head up. But then I realized that obviously my legs are going to fall if I tip my head up, and that's the reason for it happening. I need to trust the water and put my head all the way back into the water, up to above my ears, just so that this little part, like the main part of your face, is in the air and the rest is in the water. That's how much trust I had to have in the water so that my legs wouldn't fall. My dad and sister helped me get into that, starfish position with the water just in the right, surrounding all of my head and just leaving the face. And then I realized there I was floating, and my trust in the water increased a little bit. So the next step was swimming with pool noodles. So the first thing I had to do was grab onto the pool noodle and just kick, and I'd be moving like a fucking snail, but I'm moving nevertheless, right? And that was pretty easy because that's all I fucking did in that first class anyway with that barbell, right? But the difference with this time is that instead of keeping my, face kind of up and trying to look forward, I just put my face flat down in the water and held my breath. That way, I would be swimming fucking correctly, because you're actually supposed to put your face in the water when you swim and hold your breath. That's the proper way to do it. Of course, all these professional guys are going to look to the side and do this shit. But nah, initially, you got to put your face down and just hold your breath until you're done swimming. And then after I got the hang of that, which was pretty fucking quick, I put the pool noodle around my chest and then below my armpits, and then I started using my arms to do strokes and learned about a little bit about more the mechanics of swimming. And I got used to that pretty quick because, the pool noodle is fucking carrying me anyway. Then I had to clutch my balls for this last step, which was swimming without any flotation devices at all. Of course, the first times I tried, I'd fail. I'd swim for like 2 to 3 seconds and then mess up. But I realized the reason I was doing this was because I wasn't putting my face in the fucking water. It was easy to do it with the pool noodles because the pool noodles were holding me up anyway. But now I had nothing. I just had to trust the water, put my face in it, and trust that I would stay on the surface while swimming. My dad and my sister would attempt to hold me from below as I attempted to swim. But when they let go, I would still get scared and fail. I kept trying and trying and trying, but I kept failing. But I did get better as the days progressed. I went from swimming consistently 3 seconds to 4 seconds and then finally to 5 seconds. When I got to 5 seconds, that's when my masculine, goal-destroying energy just fucking channeled through my veins, and I was like, I'm gonna swim across the shallow end of the pool. I'm going to fucking do it. You would probably think that 5 seconds is enough to swim across the shallow end of the pool because it's not that big, right? But I was swimming really fucking slow. I needed momentum to speed through the water like a fucking bullet. And my sister taught me this trick. You could literally just go by the pool wall and then kick off the pool wall, and it will just give you an initial momentum and speed, and you can just carry it on throughout the swim. And once I started doing that, I was actually speeding up. I felt like such a fucking great swimmer. I mean, of course, as you can tell, I'm not that great, but it was so much better than I've ever done in my entire life. I was fully putting my face in the water. I was moving my arms and my legs and kicking my legs like my life fucking depended on it. I had to get to the other side, and I did it. For the first time, I finally swam successfully by myself after years of being scared of this shit. Years of thinking the water was gonna fuck me. I did it. By the way, this whole progression happened in the course of a week. Right when we got our pool and we moved to our new house. Just a week in, when the pool opened, that's when I achieved it. Which is crazy when you think about it, because I've been scared to achieve something like that for several years before that. By now, I've even swam across the entire length of my pool, all the way to the deep end and back, without any flotation devices. I still can't tread water though, so I can't really chill in the deep end without any floaties or anything. But I've overcome my fear of swimming and the water, and I can finally swim now. I finally don't feel fucking scared when I walk by pool rooms and smell chlorine. I actually feel more excited. Whenever I see a pool, I'll probably swim in it, right? If we're at a hotel and there's a pool there, we'll go swim in it. We'll just have fun. Because I've finally gotten over this fear. Judging, of course, there's a shallow end though. If the whole pool's just deep, I'm probably fucking cooked. There's still a lot more for me to learn. I only know I know the normal strokes, the normal stroke and the backstrokes and the elementary backstrokes. And I also know those funny tricks, the jellyfish where you kind of flop over and your back comes up to the surface. Those funny things and, basic strokes. But I don't really know things like treading water. There's still stuff for me to learn, but I've overcome that fear and I can learn these things now. If there's one thing that you should learn from this story of mine, it's that facing your fears can take years, but that doesn't give you the right to quit. When I was scared of swimming, I would always make these excuses, saying stuff like, swimming is not an important life skill. I just won't end up falling into the water by accident. I won't make that mistake. If I'm in a boat, I'll be wearing a life vest, so there's really no point in learning how to just swim without one, right? It's not an important life skill. That's the excuse I would always make. But the point of this was not to learn swimming as an important life skill. It was about doing something challenging. It was about persevering through failure. It was about learning how to not give up. It was about learning how to see your fear and still do the brave thing anyway. That's what getting over this fear taught me. If you have a fear of swimming like I did, then this is good news for you. This means that you can fucking get over it, because I did. And all of us have the same potential to keep trying and achieve. If you have a fear of anything, this video still applies to you. Grab your testicles and get the job done. Say fuck you to the fear and do the scary thing anyway. That is your duty as a man. especially as a man on self-improvement, because when you overcome a big fear, you'll realize that you really can do anything that you set your mind to. This video won't change your life. You will.